Hi everyone, my name is Min. I'm a product manager at Smart Technologies. So thanks for joining us again. Today I'm very excited to share with you some exciting new features in Smart Learning Suite Online. Today we're actually giving you a sneak peek at some of the new features that we'll be releasing in the next couple of weeks. So this is not quite on Smart Learning Suite Online yet, but please stay tuned to our Facebook and Twitter channels for updates. As well as check back often on Smart Learning Suite Online that these changes should be up soon. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is an update on how Smart Learning Suite Online handles the delivery of the teacher's lesson to student devices. And we have some exciting changes here. So as you probably know today, with Smart Learning Suite Online, it's really nice to use our student devices because you can have students connect to your lesson and give them a copy of your lesson. So that they can do activities and see what you're doing. So what I have on my screen here is a side-by-side view. On the left-hand side here, I have the teacher view of Smart Learning Suite Online. And on the right-hand side, I have the students. So previously, one of the limitations with Smart Learning Suite Online is you might have a lesson that you share with students, and they can see the lesson and the contents of the lesson. But if you were to say annotate on the lesson or take notes, the students don't see those changes on their device. But as you can obviously see in this preview here, on the student side, students are actually seeing those changes live. So now you can actually use annotations to point at things, and students will be able to see that reference live on their device. As long as they're connected to the lesson, and also if you take any notes in the lesson, students will be able to see those notes as well. The other big change that we made to the delivery model is we're actually giving teachers more explicit control about how they deliver their content, the content of the lesson to students. So by default, you can see on the student side, they're actually view only on the content, right? So a lot of times in your lesson, you might have a page that's just like this one here, where it's just information that you want to deliver to students, and there isn't really something that you necessarily need them to do. So in this experience, you can see that the students are just viewing the content, and they don't have any of the tools on the sidebar here to then move things around or mess up that content. But of course, one of the powerful things in Smart Learning Suite Online is that, of course, you could import a page such as this, where you've designed it as an activity for the students to do. So in this case, what teachers can do is actually you can explicitly turn this page into an activity for your students to do on their device. So I'll show you how you can do that here. So as you know, in the top left-hand corner, we have our class panel, which shows you a list of connected students. And on the right-hand side, now you'll notice this new user interface that tells you what the students are seeing on their device. So the page right now is view only for students. But you have the option to now make this page into an independent handout activity. So I can do that here. And what you see on the student side is that their screen changed into this screen that's reminiscent of a lab activity, right? Because it looks like the start screen of a lab activity with this big start button. So students, they just click start, and now they have that activity along with all the tools on the toolbar here for them to then complete this activity. So in this example here, the students would just drag and drop the chocolates into the correct location and then use ink to annotate and complete the activity. On the teacher side, of course, you have the activity as well. So you can use this to model the activity to students at the front of the board. In the future, and just a quick note about some of the things we're planning, we do intend on this being a dashboard for teachers, so you'll be able to view and monitor student progress as well. So look for that update sometime in the fall. This is kind of the starting point for kind of unifying a lot of the workflows and user interface around how teachers handle activities in Smart Learning Suite Online. So the next thing I want to talk about is a new and a different type of activity that you can facilitate in lessons. If you're keen, when I was demoing the individual handout activities, you might have noticed a different option underneath here. And this is to make this page into a collaborative workspace activity. So just like in the previous example, where teachers want students to, sometimes we want students to complete an activity individually, But there are other times where, for an activity that's more involved, or you want students to work together to solve the problem, you can actually group students that are connected to your class and then get them connected to a shared space. I have this page here where it's a little bit higher level activity, and it's asking students to work together to find images of fractions in everyday life, identify the fractions, and explain what is the whole and what are the parts. So of course you can do this individually, but because it is more involved, I'm going to make this into a collaborative workspace activity. So as a teacher, when I click on this option, what you'll see is an interface that comes up that gives teachers the option to then create teams that you can then break the students into. And this number here, this interface will be very familiar to you if you like Monster Quiz, because it's essentially just a Monster Quiz interface. So I'm going to pick two teams here, and you can see, just like Monster Quiz, it groups the students randomly to start. But of course, you have the ability to then decide to rearrange the groups. So actually for this activity, I think I'm just going to have everybody in the same workspace to do this together, since we only have three students. So once I click Start Workspace, a couple of things to note here. On the left-hand side, for the teachers, you see a dashboard. Since I only have one team, you see the team as well as who's in the team. When you have multiple teams, they will get tiled on the screen. You can see them there. On the right-hand side for the student, you actually see this activity that I just handed out. And you can see that this is the Team 2's workspace. And I do actually have a couple of collaborators with me in the room here, and they're busy, finding out content. Oh, there we go. So somebody's found a pizza, and is now breaking that pizza up into little pieces and writing out the fractions. Good work. Of course, I can do the same. I can draw in the space, find my own pictures using this interface. So if I just type in a word here, and you can see you get the results here, and all you do is just drag that image into the space, and there's your image. So what's really powerful about this is now the students have taken that page that you've had in your lesson, and we have converted it into a shared space. Now everybody can contribute content in. So there are endless things that you can think of how you can leverage this to really support student collaboration in your lesson. So again, depending on what you need to do, or what you want the students to do, you can either have them work individually to complete an activity you designed in the lesson, or collaboratively now with this new workspace activity. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the creation experience in Smart Learning Student Online. I really enjoy seeing everybody's fantastic lab activities that you created through our SLSO challenges. And now you can do even more with Smart Learning Student Online. So previously you were limited to only being able to create a single activity, but now when you click on this plus button, you're given a full screen experience and three very simple choices of whether starting from a file that you have, whether it's notebook, PDF, or PowerPoint, or you can create something from scratch, like a lab activity or an assessment. I'm actually going to start with the lab activity. So you're probably familiar with this. It brings up the wizard, and then I would just create a very quick, maybe just Amy, if you can add some text in there. Yeah, this doesn't need to be a long activity, and I'm just going to click next and pick a theme and finish that activity. So all of this you're probably familiar with, nothing has changed there. But now you can see it's actually adding the activity to a lesson. And once it's done that, it brings you to this new user interface. So on the left-hand side here, you see what we call the page sorter. So like you're familiar with in Smart Notebook. On the right-hand side here, you can edit that activity or preview it. And you can actually change the names of the activity. I know a lot of you have been waiting for that for a long time. So now you can actually make the activities recognizable or easy to remember for both you and your students. But the key change here is that you're not only able to create just a single activity, you can add on to it. So if you wanted to build a student-paced lesson with a collection of activities, you can actually continue to add a different activity that supports the same theme. So let's say I want to add on a super sort activity, and then just type in my content. Maybe you want to sequence the activity in a way where it goes from, something that's a little bit easier to something that's more difficult. So you can do that. And then I'm just going to click next after I'm done. Pick the theme and click finish, and you can see that activity now shows up after that one. Of course, you can reorder any of these activities. So maybe, I'm just gonna add another quick activity here. Let's say I want to do a shout it out activity, and this one's really quick to add. But I wanted the students to do a discussion first before they do the review activities. I can just click, actually, I need to use the mouse for this. Okay, thank you. So you can move and drag the activities and rearrange them depending on how you want the students to go through the activities themselves. So this is kind of the experience for creating from scratch. You can of course rename the full lesson actually, so you're not limited to just renaming the activity itself. And then anything that you do in this interface, you can actually undo. So if you make a mistake, you can just very quickly undo that change or redo that change. And everything saves automatically, so you don't have to worry about saving it. When you're done, you just click the home button, and that takes you back into your lesson library, and you can see that new activity you created. Of course, you can start with a lesson that you already have. And the other nice thing is that now you can actually edit any activity you've imported into Smart Learning 3 Online. So not just the ones that you create with this new feature, but also past lessons that you've uploaded. So with that fractions lesson that I was using before, all I have to do to edit it, just click on the pencil icon, and that actually loads up all of the pages of the activity. So you can see this here. So maybe I want to move that YouTube video to before that shout it out activity, because I want the students to watch the video and go through it before they answer that. And the other thing is, we talked about kind of taking a page and converting it into an activity. You can do that as part of the edit and creation experience as well. So if you don't want to do it on the fly, you can do this as you're preparing the lesson. So all you do is edit the activity and then go and convert it, and you have the same two choices to convert it into a handout activity or a workspace activity. Once you converted it, you see this view, and of course you want to test play the activity. You can just click on the preview button to test it and see how it works before you actually deliver it to students. So that's a quick overview of the new creation experience. We are looking to add more content and media into what you will be able to include in your lessons, so look for that in the future. And the last thing I'm going to end with is actually something quite small, but I think you'll enjoy. So I know a lot of you use Shout It Out as your favorite lab activity in the classroom, because you can do really quick student discussions and get feedback from students. So I'm actually going to start a Shout It Out activity here, and I'll have my helpers type in responses for their favorite food. So nothing is new about this part of the experience. Just going to type in something and send it to my teacher. Okay, so now I have a collection of responses from students. This is great for in class when you want to go over a concept and formatively assess students. But a lot of times you get an overwhelming number of responses from students, and you don't have time to look through all of them during the class. So I'm happy to say now that all of these student responses also save as part of the lesson, and they save automatically. So as a teacher, if I were to exit the lesson at the end of the day, and at a later point decide to go back and see how the class responded that day, I can then open that lesson, go to that page with the Shout It Out activity, and now you'll see a button called Review Results. When you click on that button, it reloads all of those student responses, so then you